A lot of you have been wanting gem dragons in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, as they were, in a lot of people's opinions, sorely missing. Well, if you're unaware, an official stat block for a Sapphire Dragon has been released. It's available on D&D Beyond. We're going to talk about it in just a sec, so stay tuned. Alright folks, so Sapphire Dragon's an adult Sapphire Dragon. There's no other levels of the dragon, just this one adult Sapphire Dragon. It was released as part of the 2019 Extra Life Initiative for Dungeons & Dragons, so you can purchase this individually on the D&D Beyond Marketplace. I'm not sure if it's available elsewhere. It might be on the DM's Guild. We'll just do a real quick check to see if it's there. Because chances are it would be right at the front. I don't see it, so it's on D&D Beyond. So I'll put a link to the marketplace on D&D Beyond if you want to see it, but let's go through it. If you're unfamiliar with gem dragons, you have metallic dragons, which are the good dragons. You have chromatic dragons, which are the evil dragons. Gem dragons are the neutral dragons. So we have the adult Sapphire Dragon here. This is a lawful neutral dragon. So challenge rating 15... 207 hit points, 19 AC. It's got a burrow speed, a climb speed, and a fly speed of varying amounts here. You can see the stats are pretty good, actually really solid for any dragon. And that high of a dexterity is usually uncommon in dragons. It has Dex, Con, Wisdom, and Charisma saving throws. It has History, Perception, Persuasion, and Stealth. It is immune to thunder damage and the Frightened condition. I believe this is the only dragon that's immune to the Frightened condition. I could be wrong. And we may just go check that real quick, because I could have sworn... I thought it was always funny that dragons... Yeah, that's true. That dragons have a frightful presence, but they can still be frightened. It has Blind Sight to 60 feet, Dark Vision to 120 feet. It speaks Common Draconic and has Telepathy out to 120 feet. It's psionic, right? So it's a psionic dragon. So it can do certain spell castings and things without using, actual spell components, and that it's all mind magic. So you can see innate spell casting, psionics. The save DC is 17. You can cast the following spells requiring no components once per day each: Scrying, Telekinesis, and Teleportation Circle. It has 2 legendary resistance. It has Spider Climb, so it can stick on walls. And it has Tunneler. It can burrow through solid rock at half its burrow speed, which is 30. And it can choose to leave a 10-foot diameter tunnel in its wake. It has multi-attack. It can use Frightful Presence. It can then make 2 melee attacks, one with its bite and one with its claws. You can see its bite is plus 11 to hit, 10-foot reach, 2d10 plus 6 piercing damage, and a d6 thunder damage. Claws, plus 11 to hit, 10-foot reach, 3d8 plus 6 slashing damage. Its tail attack, same thing, but 2d8 plus 6 bludgeoning damage. Its Frightful Presence is 120 feet. Each creature of the dragon's choice within 120 feet must make a DC 17 Wisdom save or become frightened for 1 minute. They can repeat the save at the end of their turns, and if they succeed, they're immune like any dragon. And it has Debilitating Breath, which recharges on a 5 or a 6. It is a nearly inaudible sound, exhales a pulse of high-pitched, nearly inaudible sound in a 60-foot cone. Each creature must make a DC 18 con save. On a failed save, the creature takes 45 or 13 d6 thunder damage, and here's the kicker, is incapacitated until the end of its next turn. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't incapacitated. So, damage, and then also a status condition that's pretty debilitating, hence the name. Its legendary actions, it has 3. You can use 1 to make a tail attack, 1 to make a telekinetic fling, which it chooses a small or smaller object that isn't being worn or carried that it can see within 60 feet, and it magically hurls the object at a creature it can see within 60 feet. That creature must make a DC 17 dexterity saving throw, or take 4d6 bludgeoning damage. That's actually a really interesting ability, because it gives you ranged damage as a dragon, which is not something you typically have. Or 2 to teleport, and it can magically teleport to an unoccupied space it can see within 30 feet. So it's interesting, it doesn't have like the wing attack that most dragons have, where they beat their wings and then they get to move. This thing can just teleport for 2, or do ranged damage or tail attacks for 1. So we can go down and take a look at the description. There's a little bit about its lair, and then there's also a section on gem dragons as well. So they are psionic in nature, and it's actually interesting. It says it's evident in their horn and bone structure. I don't know if you can make it out. Oh, here you can. That their horns and like their tails and stuff and like part of their wings, they're not actually physically attached to them. They just sort of float and are kind of held there with their general psychic energy, which is really cool aesthetically. And I like it too, because, like, in theory, that could be a really interesting mechanic or like a plot point in one of your games. Like, someone finds this weird piece of conical sapphire, and it's actually from remains of a dead sapphire dragon. That could be really cool. Again, most recent players aren't familiar with that, so this could be a unique, interesting thing for them to experience. Unlike most dragons, they hatch. Their scales hatch in a deep shade of blue and sparkling luster. They live in caverns, so they said they don't like people who dig too deep, so they're not huge fans of dwarves or drow. They love to eat giant spiders. That's their favorite meal. Martial and territorial. They're militaristic and warlike, defending their territory with a fervor seen in few other dragon kinds. Let's see. They reach a certain age, their magical command over the stone that comprises, they get magical control over stone. As I said, they hate dwarves and drow, but they might help rock and deep gnomes to like reshape and influence their settlements to make them militaristic and to help protect the dragon. They like gold and jewels. They also specifically like magic weapons and armor, and they like to kind of have them front and center, as well as written accounts of military history and tactics, which is pretty sweet. Centerpiece of a dragon's Sapphire's hoard is cataloged orderly collection of its accumulated war gear, often containing ancient relics of immense power. Now we have our little section here on gem dragons. So, good dragons, metallic dragons follow Bahamut, chromatics follow Tiamat. The gem dragons follow the enigmatic ruby dragon Sardior, which is if my memory of gem dragons is that you have the amethyst, crystal, emerald, sapphire, and topaz dragons, which are like the base dragon kind, and there's only one ruby dragon, just how there's only one platinum dragon, being Bahamut. There's only one ruby, which is Sardior. They set themselves apart from their affairs of other beings, even their own kind. They search out lairs from far from established populations, which they can tend in solitude, so they can carefully cultivate a circle of servants or vassals to tend their interests in the surrounding region. Despite their isolationist tendencies, they're very charismatic. Gem dragons are all inherently psionic creatures. Again, there's your mind magic. Develop telepathic abilities shortly after hatching. Psychically adept dragons often find themselves at odds with aberrations, particularly mind flayers and aboleths. They made a point that they also hate those as well. Skilled at locating areas within the far realm, where the far realm intrudes onto the material plane. So that could be another good plot point, right? There's a lot of mind flayers or beholders or aboleths, and the Sapphire Dragon asks the party to hunt them down because they can sort of have like tracking to figure that out. Of all the gem dragons, here's my point from before. I just realized the unique ruby dragon Sardior is the greatest. He's the king of the gem dragons and dwells in a floating castle carved of ruby and red gold. His ruby citadel flies far above the surface of the world, always in the night sky. When glimpsed, it crosses the sky like a crimson star, invading the constellations, wheeling slowly overhead. Sardior is attended in his hold by a council of 5, comprised of witheringly powerful ancient dragons of each of the gem dragon kinds. Here's some other art of a sapphire dragon. You can see the cool tail kind of separated there. And then we have a sapphire dragon's lair. Sapphire dragons make their lairs in sprawling caverns and tunnels. As they grow older, they make extensive renovations and customizations to their lairs, thanks to their command over the stone's substance and their natural tunning abilities. So their lair actions, on initiative count 20, they can choose one of the following lair actions. The dragon targets a creature within 120 feet that it can hear and understand. That creature must make a DC 15 wisdom save or be charmed by the dragon until initiative count 20 on the following round. Creature charmed in this way obeys to the best of their ability any command the dragon issues that isn't directly harmful. Or it touches a section of stone up to 10 feet in any dimension. It can form the stone into any shape it wants. Or a wall of stone springs into existence on a solid surface within 120 feet of the dragon. The wall is 60 feet long, 10 feet high, and 1 foot thick. When it appears, each creature in its space is pushed to the other side. Each 5-foot section has 17 AC, 20 hit points, vulnerability to thunder damage, and immunity to poison and psychic damage. And it vanishes when it uses its lair action again. This lair action again, or when it dies. And its regional effects for the general area are: giant spiders are attracted to area within 6 miles of the lair and settle there in large numbers. Natural stone within 6 miles of the lair grows plentiful crystal formations and sapphire gemstone veins, particularly underground. And natural stone within 6 miles of the lair becomes a conduit for the dragon's psionic presence. As an action, the dragon casts a clairvoyance spell requiring no components, targeting any natural stone formation in that region. Very, very cool stuff. I know a lot of people love gem dragons, myself included. I just like obscure things when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. I spent a lot of time in 3.5 delving back into as many books as I could find, as many weird supplements and things that people may not know about. So gem dragons are pretty popular, I'd say, in the grand scheme of things. But then there are things like the other metallurgic dragons, right? There's mithril dragons and iron dragons. There's song dragons, which is another type of dragon. There are like fang dragons and brown dragons, and I think there's orange dragons and yellow and purple. Like, again, as time went on, they just started making more and more things. And I don't know, I think everyone that I've just mentioned is actually a thing that exists somewhere in Dungeons and Dragons history, specifically in the 3.5 time frame, because I believe that's where I read all of that. But it's cool to see a canonical gem dragon. I know there's been a lot of clamoring for that in a lot of dragon-based supplements that have been released. People have asked for stat blocks for gem dragons. Here, we actually have one, and it's cool because for the first time, and not necessarily, but I feel like for the first time, this is a dragon that's slightly more competitive, because I feel like dragons in 5th edition are pretty weak in general, in my opinion, compared to their older counterparts. So this particular type of dragon is a little more substantial in that it has ranged attacks, it has spellcasting as part of it, not as like an option you might want to use. It has spellcasting, no questions asked, it just has it. But let me know what you guys think. What are your thoughts on the Sapphire Dragon? Is this the first time you're hearing of gem dragons because you're new to 5th edition or Dungeons and Dragons in general? Have you been waiting for gem dragons to appear and you're very excited? Or did this kind of fall flat in what you wanted gem dragons to be? These aren't as prestigious or aren't what exactly you wanted to see? And do you think that if enough people, or do you think we'll get more? I mean, I assume if a lot of people purchase this, then they'll do other dragons, but this was an Extra Life thing, so does that mean we're going to have to wait for the next Extra Life book or Extra Life year, 2020 Extra Life, to get more gem dragons? Or do you think maybe they'll take a hint from this and then make more gem dragons just for general use? Because it seems like people are buying it, and it's sort of just almost like, I mean, no pun intended, printing money. You put stuff out there, official stat blocks, people are going to buy them. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, I did a little bit of research, and I'd say more than 50%, almost 75% of you who watch these videos aren't subscribed to the channel. So this would be a great time to take your opportunity to go ahead and click the like button and subscribe to the channel. I've also been covering all the news regarding the new D&D books that are being teased, and sort of information is coming out in bits and pieces. If you want to stay up to date with that kind of stuff, make sure you click the notification bell so you know when my new videos come out and they don't get lost in your YouTube feed. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.